Hello, my true crime family. Welcome back to my returning viewers, and a warm welcome and thank you to my new subscribers. So, last time we talked about a fun, family-friendly true crime story about a stolen shark from the aquarium. Easy, lighthearted, pretty chill. Today, not so much. Don't gather the kids for this one, because today we're talking about murder for hire, assassination, celebrity connections. It's about to get nuts. So, disclaimer, today's episode includes depiction of violence, including murder and assassination plots. Also, I may say some bad words because sometimes that happens. Viewer discretion is advised. As usual, I like to give a little background on why I picked this story, so here goes. Several people recommended this particular story to me, including a good friend of mine who is currently battling COVID. I hope she's on the mend and that this story may help put her in good spirits. Keep her in your thoughts. My parents also mentioned this story, but where I first heard about this was way back in college, from my most favorite professor of all time, Dr. Paul Wilson. May he rest in peace. He taught government, and I'm not the biggest fan of learning about laws and stuff, even though I'm probably a little obnoxiously political in nature, but he taught that class so well. I still remember tons of stuff he talked about, including how America didn't want sons to be punished for the crimes of their fathers. There is a legal term for this, I think. Something about blood or sanguine. I don't really remember. I tried looking it up, but I'm probably not looking at the right thing. Regardless, it's a good rule because it's not your fault if your parents kind of suck and do shitty or shady stuff, right? I mean, this could be applied to, I don't know, bringing kids into the country illegally and it shouldn't be held against them, but what do I know? Anyway, so he was telling us one day about this rule, and by example, he brought up Woody Harrelson. I was perplexed because at that point I knew very little about Woody Harrelson, only that he was in Kingpin and a few other movies I'd seen, but I thought he was a decent guy. Well, he is, but turns out his dad is definitely not. Charles Harrelson is in fact a murderer. So this is where our story begins. Charles Harrelson was born in Huntsville, Texas in 1939. He eventually moved to California to become an encyclopedia salesman, which, I mean, what a transition, am I right? From encyclopedia salesman to paid assassin? This is going to be a fascinating character arc. Right. So he's in Cali, and I guess he came back to Texas at some point because Woody Harrelson was born in Midland, Texas in 1961. It's believed that sometime in the 1960s, he turned to crime and was convicted in 1960 for armed robbery. Maybe it was the pressure of having a family, who knows. Chuck, as he was known, went on to be accused of 2 murders in 1968. One was the murder of Alan Harry Berg on May 28, 1968, but he was acquitted of that charge, only to be convicted of the murder for hire of Sam DeLeggia Jr. Not long after. In this case, he was said to have been paid $2,000 to kill the McAllen grain dealer, and I gotta say, that's a pretty low bar. Even for the 60s, $2,000 seems super low for actual murder. But what do I know, though? So, in the murder of Sam DeLeggia, he was convicted of being an accomplice and was sentenced to 7 years. He was retried in 1973, and his sentence was extended to 15 years. However, he was released after 5 years for good behavior. And it's at this point that I facepalm myself because, look, I definitely think prison reform is needed in our country, and reframing how we deal with criminal behavior could do with some real pondering. But damn, this dude has already been accused of murder like twice now, and they let him out for good behavior? For real? Jeez. So now comes the big one. Chuck had some ties to organized crime, which is, I guess, how he wound up shifting from encyclopedia sales to freaking paid assassin. So in 1979, he was hired by the El Paso drug dealer Jamil Chagra to assassinate federal judge John H. Wood. Why, do you ask? Well, because Chagra was supposed to appear before the judge for drug crimes, and apparently Judge Wood had a bit of a reputation and a nickname that made him an easy target. Maximum Wood, because he was well known for handing down hard sentences for drug offenders. Personal aside, I don't agree with this practice, and I definitely think drug offenses should be reevaluated as well, but that's not a reason to murder someone because, well, hello, we shouldn't solve our problems with murder, okay? Okay, so Chuck is hired by Chagra, and on the morning of May 29th, 1979, which is super coincidental timing, nearly 11 years to the day of his first accusation of murder, in the driveway of his Alamo Heights townhome, Chuck shot and killed Judge Wood as he was leaving for work. Alamo Heights is a little, suburb of San Antonio. Anyway, for the assassination of Judge Wood, Charles Harrelson is believed to have been paid $250,000, and the incident was known as the crime of the century in San Antonio, at least. After the murder, an FBI manhunt began. Near Van Horn, Texas, in September of 1980, after a 6-hour standoff and while reportedly high on cocaine, Harrelson was arrested. At the time of the arrest, he claimed to have murdered both Judge John Wood and President John F. Kennedy. Later, he was investigated for ties to the Kennedy assassination, but the FBI did not find any legitimate ties and discounted his involvement. During the trial, which took place in San Antonio, Harrelson appeared calm and at ease, apparently giving the jury faint smiles. Maybe he wasn't trying to be creepy like our first guy, Christian Bautista, but still a bit unsettling. Maybe he was trying to appeal to the jurors, who knows. After the trial concluded, the jury deliberated for 18 hours and found Charles Harrelson guilty of 3 counts: murder of a federal judge, conspiracy to murder, conspiracy to obstruct justice. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 5 years, and served until July 4th, 1995, in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, where he attempted to escape with 2 other men using a rope. They were caught, and Harrelson was transferred to a maximum security prison in Marion, Illinois. The remainder of his sentence was to be served there, but on March 15, 2007, Charles Harrelson was found dead of a heart attack at age 68 years of age. Woody Harrelson certainly had an unconventional relationship with his father, often saying that he felt his father wasn't really a part of his upbringing, and later, after reconnecting with him during his prison term, that he could maybe consider him a friend, but not so much a parent. I can't begin to comprehend the complexities of having a convicted murderer/assassin for a father, so I don't judge any thoughts or feelings Woody has towards his. The movie No Country for Old Men, based on the book by the same name, which mentions the incident, features Woody Harrelson playing a bounty hunter. Perhaps playing a role that mirrors the crimes of his father was therapeutic for him. Perhaps he just resonated with the character, but regardless, his acting and his own character have clearly not been tarnished by the sins of his father. So, that's the story of Charles Harrelson. Not a great dude in terms of not murdering people. As always, it's time to honor the victims of today's story, starting with Judge John Wood. In San Antonio, he is memorialized by John H. Wood Middle School in the Northeast Independent School District, as well as having the U.S. Federal Courthouse named in his honor as well. Regardless of any feelings about his sentencing habits, no one deserves to be assassinated over something like that, and it's a shame that he was gunned down in front of his own home on his way out the door. I hope his family found peace and that they know his memory lives beyond him now. I also want to honor Woody Harrelson because, like I said, it has to be tough to be the son of a killer. I can't imagine what that must have been like, and trying to rebuild a relationship with him later must have brought up a lot of stuff for him. I like Woody as an actor. He seems like a laid-back, sarcastic, and fun guy. So I picked a quote from him for today's calligraphy project. I think it's cute. Adults are just kids with layers on. It's pretty accurate. Layers of learning, growing, and understanding, but not really. Layers of complicated stuff, like, I don't know, growing up with a hitman for a dad. Thanks for the movies, Woody. Keep making good stuff. So this case has a lot of conspiracy stuff behind it, and I didn't really want to get into that because if the FBI thinks it's mostly junk, I do too. But if you're into that, check out some of the sources in the description. And speaking of layers, there are so many to this case, but again, I didn't really want to get into all of that. I will say that in his prison years, Chuck seemed to maybe start to redeem himself, maybe? Redemption is such a heavy and loaded concept, you know, but he is an interesting character. Again, though, glorifying criminals is not really what I do, and I don't want to seem like I'm doing that, so I didn't really touch on that. I do think redemption would be a fascinating thing to explore, but I'm not sure of the best way to do that. What do you think? Is redemption possible? Can a person commit a heinous act, but then make up for it for the rest of their lives? Or is one bad deed, especially murder, enough to condemn a person forever? There are definitely a lot of opinions, and whatever your spiritual beliefs may be will definitely weigh heavily on yours, but I thought I'd leave you with something to chew on today because it came up in my mind as I was preparing for this episode. And that's today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment if you know any South Texas true crime stories that you'd like me to cover in the future, especially more lighthearted ones, if that makes sense. And I'll see you all next time. Live well, don't become a hitman, and have a lovely week. Bye-bye.